Lord be with you. This is a reading of the Good News according to Luke. In this season of Advent, there are three major figures, three people. One is Isaiah, the Jewish prophet, and he often occupies the first reading in these masses in Advent up to Christmas. The second is John the Baptist, who announces the birth of Christ, and the third is Mary. So there's Isaiah, John the Baptist, and Mary. And this particular gospel is about John the Baptist saying, the good news is coming. I'm here to announce the good news to coming to you. Let me read it to you. The crowds who were gathering to be baptized by John asked him, "What should we do?" In reply, John said to them, "Whoever has 2 coats must share with anyone who has none. And whoever has food must do likewise." Even tax collectors came to be baptized, and they asked him, "Teacher, what should we do?" He said to them, "Collect no more than the amount prescribed for you." Soldiers came and asked him, "And we, what should we do?" And he said to them, "Do not extort money from anyone by threats or false accusations, and be satisfied with your wages." As the people were filled with expectation, all questioning in their hearts concerning John, whether he might be the Messiah, John answered all of them by saying, "I baptize you with water, but one who is more powerful than I am is coming. I am not worthy to untie the thong of his sandals. He will baptize you with the Holy Spirit and fire. His winnowing fork is in his hand to clear his threshing floor and to gather the wheat into his granary. But the chaff he will burn with unquenchable fire." And with many other exhortations, John proclaimed the good news to his people. The Gospel of the Lord. Praise you, Lord. And John proclaimed the good news to his people. That was his job. He was here to announce that someone was coming. And the good news has been told to us, probably by our parents and grandparents and great-grandparents. It's been passed down as a story. I like the phrase, we are people of the story. The story comes to us from scriptures. The story will be retold with little children here on Christmas Eve in a chaotic ceremony on Christmas Eve, if you'd like to join us. But we're passing on this story to the next generations. And we pass on that story by scriptural word, by the words that our readers read to us. It's told in music. Some of the greatest music that we have tell the story of the coming of Christ and our story. It's told in the lives of heroic women and men. We hold on to those stories. Remember as children being told some of these stories of the saints and how their heroism, well, on my account anyway, touched me deeply. They may have touched you. But it's also told in architecture, in buildings, in wonderful buildings throughout the world now, but particularly the Western world. Somebody once said that architecture is frozen music, and it's a story that is is there for us to behold throughout our whole life. And this morning, just for a few minutes, I want to tell you a story about a cathedral. The great Cathedral of Notre Dame. We've all read about it in the press, but I just want to acknowledge it this morning as such an important part of this story of our faith. Notre Dame was set on fire in 2019, on April the 15th. The Parisians watched horrified on the banks of the Seine as the stricken cathedral lay helpless against the flames. You probably all saw it in the news. And a city and a nation and a European civilization watched this extraordinary building in flames. Firefighters moved in and saved it from the fire from moving to the belfry. Had the fire got to the belfry, the back part of the cathedral, it would have destroyed it, probably in a way that it could never be restored. And the brave men and women of the Paris Fire Brigade saved that from happening. Unlike our own cathedrals here in Australia, there's an interesting thing about cathedrals in France. They are owned by the government. The government takes them on and looks after their restoration and maintenance because they hold the story of France. And the people there, whether believers or unbelievers, see in these architectural giants the sort of the soul of France, the soul of Europe. Kenneth Clark, the great historian, called it the soul of civilization. Notre Dame was not just a cathedral, it really held itself as a model for so many other cathedrals through Europe and throughout the world. On December the 7th, only a few days ago, the Archbishop of Paris, Laurent Ulrich, dressed in a beautiful gear, especially designed for the event, took his crozier and knocked his crozier against the front door 3 times. It's a traditional way of the Archbishop returning to his cathedral. And there, as the doors opened, it was revealed a cathedral was reborn, restored, breathed in light. And as the President of France promised, it was plus belle encore, was even more beautiful than ever. And as the cameras followed the Archbishop into the cathedral, this extraordinary, beautiful restored cathedral was laid out. It's the grime of 9 centuries had been cleaned away to reveal a brilliant interior walls. Plus belle encore, more beautiful than ever. And there, this building, which held our story and represents the stories that we have in so many parts of our life that hold us together, was reborn. They had benediction there, and it started with a Magnificat, and they sang the Te Deum. Part of the choir was drawn from the 600 craftsmen and women who had been working on this cathedral absolutely non-stop for 5 years. Macron was trying to open for the Paris Olympics, of course. He nearly did, just missed it by a few months. But the restored cathedral had been returned after 5 years. Why am I talking about it? Well, as I've suggested, it's not just a part of the story. It represents the story that holds us together. That story is the glue that holds us together as a community. It was a story that John the Baptist promised us when he said the good news is coming. It's a story from which the gospel had been preached. The stories of Jesus had been retold, and it was in danger of being destroyed forever. They had some big questions to answer, whether they should. We had the same questions in St Mary's Cathedral in Sydney, whether in the restoring the cathedral, whether we should bring the altar from the far end into the centre of the cathedral. That sort of was an expression of trying to say the liturgy is not remote up there, but we are part of it. It is part of the community. We are the Spirit coming down upon the bread and the wine. However, the traditionalists held on. The beautiful altar, I must say, was stayed at the end of the cathedral and not in the centre. But it was a huge debate. And it was a debate about the church at the moment, about how that story can be brought into our present time, I guess, our present needs, how prayer needs to support us in a very different time of our life. And so let me conclude by saying cathedrals are absolutely important. Might I say both Neil and I had the privilege of looking after St Mary's Cathedral a few years ago. I was there for 10 years, and Neil was there for a number of years as well. But that cathedral, one of the great tragedies about it is we know so little about it. But it holds the story of the church in Sydney from convict times, and it holds us together. So St Mary's Cathedral is just one part of, think of the other great cathedrals, Westminster Cathedral, Westminster Abbey, the Sagrada Familia in Barcelona, the great Cathedral of Seville, St Peter's itself. All of those are architecture like frozen music. They hold us together. And so today, I'd like just to conclude with a prayer of thanks that that wonderful building of Notre Dame de Paris is still part of our tradition, and it's been restored so lovingly by artisans, by artists, by architects, by people of faith and no faith, because they recognise the fact that it is the soul of France, the soul of Europe, and the soul, many would say, of civilization itself.